Well, welcome to week 4. I hope you guys aren't monkeying around too much yet in this class. Today's topic is about taxes. Things you can't avoid. You'd like to, but you can't. Well, you can, but then you go to prison, and taxes are probably better than prison. Economists don't like taxes because they create deadweight losses, as you're reading through. But smart, intelligent students will look at it and go, is there a way to have a tax that doesn't create a deadweight loss? And if so, then would economists be okay with taxes? And the answer is yes. If you create a tax that doesn't have any deadweight losses, in theory, economists will be perfectly content with that outcome. The problem is, what kind of demand or supply functions do you need in order to have a tax without a deadweight loss? In short, it's something with perfectly vertical demand. Now think about what that means. Consumers are willing to pay any given price for a specific quantity of a good. How many times do you go to the store and say, I don't care about the price, I'm going to buy that item. I'm going to buy that item. I'm going to buy that item. Pretty much, you go in, you make a decision, and there's a certain price threshold over which you will not buy an item, right? So that means your demand curve is still downward sloping in some way. So what type of items would then have a non-downward sloping demand curve but have it be perfectly vertical? In other words, you don't care how much you pay for something as long as you get it. Well, thinking about it, vertical demand, kidney dialysis. That would probably do it, right? Because your choice is kidney dialysis or death. So economists are okay with taxing kidney dialysis because it would have no deadweight loss? Well, before you call us subhuman as economists, we do have a moral compass too and an ethical compass. So we're not really for taxing kidney dialysis because, after all, taxing people who need something to live just because it doesn't create a deadweight loss is not very friendly. Okay? But if you think about it, items with perfectly vertical demand are pretty tough to find that you also wouldn't have this ethical or moral problem. So while there is the Ramsey rule, which is tax things with inelastic or perfectly vertical demand, those items tend not to exist, and if they do, we probably don't want to tax them. So in short, most economists make an argument that says when implementing taxation policy, try to pick items where the deadweight loss will be minimized. In other words, things with fairly vertical demand functions, but something you might need, but you can live without it. Gasoline, for example, in the short run, right? You can't really drive your car without gasoline, so you're going to have to pay a higher price. Most people don't change their consumption of gasoline too much as long as the price doesn't vary too much either. So we can add in an extra 10 or 15 cent tax per gallon on gasoline and not really change anybody's behavior and thereby not create any deadweight losses. But of course, if we add in a $6 per gallon gasoline tax, well, that's going to have very big distortionary effects. So in other words, if we're going to add in taxes, economists like to try and minimize the effects, i.e. the amount of quantity reduction in the market, and thereby reduce the amount of deadweight loss that's created.